Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely, and parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Try Greenlight risk-free today at greenlight.com/Wondery.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Alice.
And we are the Prosecutors. Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to this live broadcast of the Prosecutors here on Vokl. I'm Brett, joined as always by my blustery co-host, Alice.
Blustery indeed. Hey, Brett, it's Alice.
Indeed.
There is a tornado again.
Yeah, just to let everybody know, if should suddenly the feed just cut out, it's probably because the power went out or the tornado came through or whatever. We're in the middle of a storm, so
Wait, can I tell you?
but you know,
I lit all the
Nice.
candles.
nice, great. You know, I didn't even bring a flashlight with me. I guess that was probably a mistake. But that's
I
how
lit
dedicated we
the
are
candle.
to you guys.
Yeah.
At least you're like I'm in my like upstairs, so you know, cross your fingers.
There's like windows for sure around me, but like, whatever. It's fine.
Yeah, just get under something if worse comes.
Yeah.
If you hear a freight train, it's probably not a train, I think is the rule. Well, hello everybody. For those of you, there's a ton of new people here. For those of you who don't know how this works, we have these boxes here at the bottom, which you guys can jump on, and then you're like part of the show. You can ask questions, you can talk about anything you want, and just be respectful of other people. So at some point, let other people in, but this show's all about you guys. We come with nothing prepared. We're the least prepared people ever. So really, you guys drive the show. And I see Andres is down here already in a box. Looking
Yay,
like he has a question. And so, what's up, man? How's it going?
I didn't know how to use this. So
We've done a great job.
I just took one spot and
Yay.
Yeah,
I feel
that's
I'm
perfect.
talking to you guys.
Oh, we can't believe
we're
we're talking
so
to you.
happy to have you.
Wow.
I listen to you like every day. Oh my God. Well, while I'm doing housework,
Well, that's awesome.
I am very, very far away from you.
Is that right?
You.
Is that right? Do you want to
I'm
share
in
your
Chile.
location? Chile. Okay.
Chile,
Awesome.
the southernmost extreme of Latin America.
Wow.
Andre,
So-
I've never been to Chile, but I really want to. So maybe you can get enough of your friends to listen to us. We can go there.
Yeah.
I've done some promotion like
There you go. That's awesome.
I'm a lawyer here in Chile, and
No.
but
Awesome.
I don't do criminal law. This is just for fun.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
But I do have friends that they are prosecutors here in Chile, and
Mhm.
I've told them about this show. I'm like, there's this great podcast and other shows too, and you should listen to it. But it's rather hard for them because you need to have a very good listening skills to listen to a show that's almost
It's the accent, isn't it?
that's-
You're saying it's the accent. They can't understand what I'm.
No,
I-
I love your accent. I love your accent. The thing is, most of the things that are in English here have subtitles. Captions. People read. They don't really listen. So you need to have
Yeah.
a more advanced skill so you can listen to a podcast.
They can't all be like Andres. It's like,
Yeah, we should. Now, I have thought about, I would like to do, we have a YouTube channel. All the YouTube channels we play the podcast on. It's not like anything unique. But I've thought about, I see videos that have the subtitles there, right? And so I don't really know how you do that. I need to get more technologically savvy because then maybe people could watch it on YouTube and listen to it that way and read it.
There are some that are generated automatically. Like,
Okay. That would probably be the best.
listen, it's great to be here with you and to actually see you. I love you guys. I always listen to your show. I can't believe, because you always comment this on the show, I can't believe how many people make like mean comments to you. It really blows my mind that so many people take the time to send mean comments to you, because your show is great and because you're so nice and your chemistry between you is so nice. And so I don't know. It's hard to
we
control.
appreciate that.
So many people would say those things.
I don't know, but
Chris,
so
you've
many.
just
It's just
made my
people are
entire
loud.
Okay, yeah, maybe that's it. But I love you guys.
We love
I love you, Alex. I love your accent, Brett.
Oh, thank you. I would love if you've ever got a case down there that you think would be cool for us to cover. We'd love to work with you on it. So let us know.
Okay, I think I'm supposed to leave room for the other people, but I'm gonna finish with this. There is a very interesting unsolved case here in Chile
Okay.
that relates to an American girl, an American psychologist that came here to a city that's south from my city, like 300 kilometers south from my city. Her name was Erica Faith Hagen, and
Okay.
she came here to help teach English. She was a psychologist, but she came here to work on a high school. She came here to help kids learn English, and she was murdered here in the school. She was like living in the school, and she was murdered in the school. And there was a trial, and the El Ministerio Público, how will you say this? The DA's office, the equivalent in Chile, did take someone to trial, but they lost. He was acquitted, so the case remains unsolved.
Okay.
And she was found dead here, and the perpetrator tried to burn the apartment, but he wouldn't do it. And her family came to Chile. They have made public statements, and it's very tragic, but her case remains unsolved. So maybe I'll send some info to you guys.
Yeah.
Maybe you could cover it.
Yeah,
I
shoot
would
us
like to
that
help
in an
you.
email. That would be amazing. No, that would be great. Let's
Thank you,
do it.
Andres. Thank you so much. And by the
Great.
way, your English is phenomenal. So maybe you can be our transcriber.
Yeah, far better than my Spanish.
I can help you with the news and the material for the case, because most
That's
of
awesome.
it's in Spanish.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's so nice to meet you.
Thank you, guys.
You're awesome.
Oh, what a joy.
NHTP. That sounds like you're an official organization. I don't know. I'm kind of concerned.
Small foreign faction.
A small foreign faction. There you go.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, so we can't hear you.
Hey, sir.
Oh, there you
Thank
go.
you.
No problem.
I think we were all making the same small foreign faction joke at this.
Oh, there you go. Great minds.
Yeah, like Andres, also obviously big fan. I've been listening to you guys since I think like Maura Murray.
Oh, wow. That's a long time.
And you've frankly like spoiled me for almost all other true crime podcasts. So it's a good thing you guys never take time off, even when you're going through trial.
Yeah.
Thank you
yeah.
thank you for recognizing that we never take time off, by the way.
Yeah. By the way, for those of you who asked, the trial is over. The trial is
Yes.
so we survived the trial. We were victorious. Justice was done. Alice did an amazing close. I wish you guys could have seen it. And so we are done with trial. Hallelujah.
We didn't think we'd ever be on this side.
No.
All of y'all are literally the best, because patrons, I'm so sorry. We didn't respond to you at all.
Oh, we just haven't
We're
done anything for you
significant
guys. Yeah.
We haven't done anything. So tonight we're like in pajamas, and I'm still really sleep deprived, but it doesn't matter because we love you guys.
Yeah. We love you guys. We're just happy to be here. Anyway, sorry to get off topic.
Oh, no. Liking you guys was the topic. I did want
My
to
favorite topic.
talk here. I've got a question about John Benet Ramsey.
Of course.
A hot topic tonight.
Why not? The more the merrier.
So if I could kind of like maybe like lay out my thinking a little bit. Okay, so like my basic question is, how much stock do you put in like the crime being intended at any point to be an actual ransom situation? My thinking is kind of like rooted in like while your podcast was like while you guys were covering John Benet, I was reading Popular Crime by Bill James and mostly really liked it. I know, Brett, you read like a ton of true crime books. I don't know if you've read it.
I haven't. I'll add it to my list.
Well, if you check it out, he's not like super duper a pro lawyer, so just a heads up on that. But
It is.
He kind of made I think he made some really good points on the possibility of the Ramsey case like being rooted in like an actual planned ransom, kind of making the point that like really only 3 things had to go right for it to work as a ransom. They had to not call the cops, and that's obviously the one that didn't go right. They had to not find the body, and it had to be an amount of money that not just that they could get, but that they could get quickly,
right,
in order to resolve like a ransom. Like I feel like agreement is not the right word, but in order to like carry off a ransom attempt. And like of those 3 things, 2 worked out, right? Like it was kind of like pitched perfectly as like an amount of money that the Ramseys could access very quickly. They were able to get it that for like within hours. And that potentially brings in like the close, basically identical match for the amount of his bonus picture. And kind of like my own thinking on this is also that like I've kind of wondered for a long time, like why like if you're like a home invader, like why do this at Christmas? I think like in an upscale neighborhood, like we know from the Ramseys themselves, like they were planning on being out of town like that day, right? Like, and we know you guys highlighted during your coverage of the case that home security among the affluent was not as intense at the time. Obviously, like they were doing home tours, hundreds of people accessing their house, many copies of keys floating around. And so it seems like one of the reasons why Christmas would be the time somebody might choose to be able to get access to an unoccupied house, potentially within like eye shot of the Ramsey home.
That's interesting. I mean,
the neighbors were so poorly canvassed that I don't even know if there's good documentation on like who was out of town among their neighbors.
I doubt there is. I mean, there might be in some police file we've never seen. I mean, I'll just say, number one, it's hard to rule anything out because, as we talked about, there are just so many problems with the investigation. I have never thought it was a ransom. I've always thought that was just a smokescreen. I mean, you make some good points. One thing, and I guess maybe this goes to the fact that they called the police. They never called with the follow-up. So I guess part of this theory would be that they were watching the Ramseys and they saw the police show up and they're like, oh, well, out of luck there. Is that kind of, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting thought. I still feel like if you were doing a ransom, you would do a more even number. Like you would just do $100,000, $150,000, even if you were trying to keep it low so you needed to get access. But
what we're thinking about the ransom is that, I mean, who knows, right? Each ransom is going to be like their own, but you didn't need to write such an extensive ransom letter to get to the point of actually better. Because if you ask for the ransom up front, right? We see this in bank robbery all the time. A lot of people try to rob banks. A shocking number of bank robberies occur when just a note, and the note is really straightforward. It's amazing. I mean, before I was a prosecutor, I was like, surely who robs banks? Apparently everybody. But with notes that say something very direct, all tens, no trackers, no banded, don't call the police, don't press your button, right? I mean, it's like all of these notes look the exact same because they have an aim. The point of the note is to get the money and get out. And so a kind of the type of ransom note here, which we've never seen in any other case. So this is just a standalone, but that doesn't even strike me as a demand letter. It strikes me as the manifesto of someone who's thought a lot about this rather than a direction to someone. That's the only thing that kind of throws me off, as the letter throws everybody off, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely feels very, very personal. It's also like, obviously, like if it was intended as like a legitimate ransom note, then they really shot themselves in the foot by not telling them to not call the police until very late in this long letter after, like, it seems from the call that Patsy almost certainly called the police before she had even read the entire letter herself. So like burying that towards the end of the letter.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
the letter,
it seems like it has to have like some function, right? Like serving as like kind of like tripwire when the Ramseys wake up and see it. Like if you're still in the house, you have some time while they're processing the note, or it's just a weird note.
Well, let me say this, and I think this is one area where Alice and I have a little bit of disagreement. I am not certain that a kidnapping wasn't intended, right? Like I don't know that they went in there intending to kill her, versus going in there intending to kidnap her. And if they had kidnapped her, then the note serves the purpose of giving them time, because the police are so focused on the house, waiting on the phone call, getting the money. That gives them at least a day to get her away, right?
Yeah.
And so that could be one of the purposes, if it was a kidnapping, is, misdirection, direct the police and the Ramseys this way, and then get out of Colorado, for instance, on the other end.
Right.
But who knows? I mean, I know we were harsh with some theories, but at the end of the day, it's really hard to really say any theory doesn't have some validity, just because, there's no piece of evidence that disproves what you said. Everything you said is consistent with what we know. It could be the case. So,
yeah. Anyways, I just thought I'd kind of float that, but I know you guys are going to get a million other Ramsey and other questions tonight. So I will.
Well, I mean, that was a great question, just because it's not something we really talked about that much. So, thanks for bringing up a new angle.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you guys. And
awesome.
Catch you on the next.
Thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Hey, Val.
Hello, Valerie. How are you?
All right. First, how are your kids? Could you tell us some stories about them?
Valerie, I like the way you troll people. People.
There you go. We can talk about potty training if you want to. That's what I mean. I thought the trial was stressful, but
oh, you're at that age. Mine trained. My kid trained himself.
Well, I wish that were the case for me, but it's not.
You're probably just a better parent than we are.
Yeah.
He doesn't like being wet or anything.
Yeah.
So it was like easy with him. But no, actually, I wanted to ask you guys, because you're from the other side, and I listen to a lot of, I guess, wrongful conviction angle. They're not necessarily always wrongful convictions, but people trying to figure out. And what I hear a lot from the audience and read a lot from the audiences is almost always they talk about how the investigation was botched, from the get-go. There's always going to be they botched the investigation, they didn't do this. And I think, everybody says hindsight's 20/20, of course. But sometimes it gets to the point of where they're already screaming corruption, and it's well, corruption, that would entail a whole conspiracy basically of everyone against, and whatnot. And I mean, how realistic is that? But not to say that problems don't exist. They do. But at the same time, I'm wondering, are there oftentimes things that would be included in a case file that if we FOIA requested and they say we think we have everything, say 20 years later, are there things that maybe would have happened in an investigation the police may have done? They may have run down some suspect or something that we aren't seeing. So there may be questions that they did ask that we aren't seeing 20 years later in a record. And so a lot of people will say, well, the police didn't do this or didn't do that or didn't blah, 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 when they actually did, or they did something along those lines and it proved useless. So they didn't continue it. I don't know if y'all can
Great
answer that.
question. The answer is yes, absolutely. And if you are talking about a record, say at trial, the thing is, everything in our case files, whether it was run down and it was a dead end, or we think it's not relevant, basically, if it's in a case file and was done in furtherance of the investigation, it's turned over to the defense. And so both sides are making the decision whether to bring it to trial. And of course, all of us live lives that have, there are millions of things going on at all times in our lives. And we ourselves are choosing what to focus on when we decide to go get coffee, right? You're filtering things through your mind at all times. And that has to happen at the trial level as well. And so both the defense and the prosecution are trying to prove their case in the prosecution's case, and in the defense trying to poke holes and cause reasonable doubt in the prosecution's case with the set of facts that will lead to their outcome without just throwing spaghetti at the wall. For every case, for example, you could take judicial notice of every day of the week and what day of the week it was and the weather and the time the sun rose, because it might be relevant. I'm not making light of that. We have that in certain cases on certain days, especially if you're saying this happened in broad daylight and you're saying, well, actually, that was the day the tornado came through and it was pitch black. There's no way it was daylight. That may matter. But my point being, you could also actually take judicial notice of everything that happened at all times. And both sides are actually whittling away at what matters for the case. So that's kind of a roundabout way of saying, yes, the record, quote unquote, let's say if it went to trial, does not necessarily represent every step that was taken in the case. That doesn't mean the defense doesn't know about it. The defense does know about it, but for whatever reason, the judge keeps it out. Both sides decide it has nothing to do with the ultimate case, right? And it's going to lead to confusion or a longer trial. It'll lead to, weeks long trial when it could be shorter. Choose to leave it out. Those sorts of things can certainly lead to things that the public will never see that was actually done. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think
it does. I mean, somewhat. I mean, then there's always, I think the other thing that comes up a lot is that people are like, when you're reading something on a page, it's a lot. It's like, you said something about this last week, Alice, or on your last episode that was similar, was you talked about like when you repeatedly are asked to like judge someone's credibility, you start to you start to certain patterns start to develop where you start to recognize certain things and whatnot because it's part of your job, right? And you're doing this repeatedly. And I think the same can be said, I think, for investigators or detectives. But oftentimes when we're looking back and we're like, oh, well, why did they immediately hone in on this person or this suspect and they didn't even look at this other person? Oh, they must have had blinders on. Oh, they're corrupt. That's where it goes a lot of times in these discussions. And that's why I'm like, if you're not face to face in the room with someone, we can read things on paper all we want, but are we really able to judge their credibility as much as being in the room with someone?
Yeah, and I would say there's sort of two sides to this. On the investigation side, ideally, everything an investigator does should end up in their report, right? I mean, that's sort of the perfect world would be every time you talk to anybody, you write a report. That doesn't happen in the real world as much as we would like it to. And that can really come back to haunt you later on. And you see that a lot in these cases. And usually the reason you're having sort of a wrongful conviction angle is because it's a close case or it's a controversial case. And there is something that went wrong at some point. So sometimes it may feel like, man, the police must be really incompetent because every show I listen to, every case, there was a messed up investigation. Well, there's a reason you're listening to that show. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we could imagine a world where John Benet Ramsey, there's an expert police investigation. They catch the guy or the family, whoever it was, the next day. Right. And it's just something we talk about as sort of a tragedy and how could that happen? But it's not a big mystery.
Yeah.
But they didn't do that. And so we have the big mystery. So I think there's a little bit of sort of
it seems like really circumstantial cases end up in wrongful conviction. Like when there's obvious, no like direct physical evidence or something, if it's all built on circumstantial evidence. And of course, there's always going to be a question, it seems, of a wrongful conviction.
And it is just a defense strategy. Every defense attorney in every case, in every trial, one of the things they're going to do, no matter how good the investigation was, is poke holes in what the police did, point out where they could have done more, point out where maybe they made a mistake. I mean, that is just a strategy of the defense side because they want, as Alice said, to just give some doubt to the jury, like, well, man, if that police officer didn't do that thing, maybe he didn't do the other thing either, right? So I feel like it's a little bit of that kind of bleeds over into what you see, that just is a strategy. And it doesn't mean that the police are always screwing everything up. It's just everybody's human. Everybody's going to make mistakes.
Well, thank you. One interesting. Yeah, Valerie, I'll just note this because I love that you listen to, our podcast and also wrongful convictions, and you're asking really great questions without coming with kind of a preconceived notion of that the police is biased. Note something though, while the government, obviously, whatever government, city, local, federal is investigating, they investigate. Know that the defense also can investigate and they can call witnesses. Of course, they don't have the power of, a government behind them, but that's a surprise to a lot of people that they are coming from different ways, right? The government, whoever is investigating, is coming from a crime has occurred and we have no personal knowledge. We have to go out and find witnesses and evidence. The defendant actually, in some ways, has a head start because if they did do it or they didn't do it, they are the first ones to know who to talk to directly, right? The police has to do things like, let's look at cell phone pings, who was in the area. Whereas the defendant, if they were there, knows the 5 people who are there, who their investigators can go talk to get the real story for an alibi, for example. So just note that because a lot of people are surprised that it's actually not one side. It's both sides can investigate and do, and both sides can call anyone to the stand at trial.
And it's interesting who they don't call too sometimes,
Right.
Absolutely.
And the defense, they have an advantage, whereas they don't have to call anybody. They don't have to put on any evidence, in our system at least. It's innocent until proven guilty. So they don't have to do anything. But it is true that when a defense lawyer says, you didn't hear from this person, well, they could have called him too. If it was that important, they could have called him. So, it's a back and forth. And there's a lot of strategic decisions made about what you, put on and what you don't. So it's always very complicated.
Yeah, it's interesting. But thank you.
Thanks,
Well,
Valerie.
thank you.
Great questions.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Ruth, where'd your dog go? Bring back the dog.
He's playing with his rubber ducky.
We love dogs. We are dog people. We are dog.
Oh, that's a happy dog. Look at that tail go.
His name is Dog.
Oh, perfect.
I love it.
It's great for my child that is in speech. So got that name real fast. But
There you go.
I'm working on giving him a proper first name. So Dog is transitioning to his last name.
I see.
Because when
Thanks, dog.
I'm yelling at
Awesome
him
dog.
in the yard, Dog. It's just
Dog.
Yeah. So we're transitioning to Snoop Dogg.
Nice. I love it.
That's pretty
Love it.
amazing.
Just call my dog, dog. So it works out.
Well, she's a good boy.
Yeah.
He's looking good boy. Yeah.
Oh, it's a good dog.
So first thing, of course, I don't remember which one it was, but I was called for jury duty. So I want to thank you guys. I wasn't selected, so I'm sad.
Me
But
neither. Never.
Do want to thank you for, as the defense attorney was asking me questions of how things were, would impact my feelings towards the defendant in an SA case, and knowing people that were victims of SA, how that would affect my bearings. And I was able, through listening to this podcast, being able to compartmentalize and let them know that the burden of proof was with the prosecutors, and that just having a clear mind that it's a completely different situation, and everything that's happened in my life was irrelevant to what was going on in this courtroom. And I just really appreciate that I've been able to just feel like I was a good citizen, and maybe that was able to let everybody know that is a potential juror, that just because somebody is sitting on that side doesn't mean that, there is an innocence until proven guilty, and that we have the system that we have for a reason. So I really thank you guys for just basically spoon feeding me those words that I could say. So I was like really surprised that those came out of my face. So thank you for that.
Well, that's a very nice.
That is so amazing, especially that you were able to articulate that, because you're so right. One of the things we said when we started the podcast was that the law should be accessible to everyone. This is our government. The jury system is our constitutional right. And I think we all become better, we are better at our civic duties and better citizens of this society when we are able to understand the framework in which we've all chosen to live in. And so for you to educate really an entire jury pool is incredible on your part. That must have taken a lot of confidence and also just wisdom to do that. So thanks for sharing that story, because that's incredible.
The defendant was found not guilty. And when I was speaking, I was looking the attorney and I looked the defendant in the eye when I was answering the questions, and he was almost relieved to just know that maybe somebody was going to listen to his side. So I just felt really confident in the county that I live in, that things are working how they're supposed to. So we have just one unsolved murder. I mean, we're very rural Kansas, but the guy fled that killed the guy. So it's not solved because he fled, but I like the county that I live in, and I feel like it's not corrupt as much as people want to say it is. Like, they just sit and talk and don't do anything. That's not correct. But anyway, so thank you guys. I really feel like what you want to do besides just have fun with it is really making an impact. So thank you.
Well, thank you. That is one of the nicest things people have ever said to us. I really appreciate that.
Wow, you guys really are lawyers.
No, that's true. People don't say nice things to us very often. That's true.
Yeah, it's not actually your nice thing. So, you know, people say nice things to us all the time.
So a couple of things on the John Bonet thing with Patsy wearing the same clothes. I don't know about you, but if I woke up and found my daughter missing, I'm not going to look for a new outfit. I'm probably going to just put on the clothes that were laying on top of everything else. Like whether or not I slept in those clothes, I'm just going to put on the most presentable outfit that I can find because I'm going to be calling the cops. Like I'm not going to be, if I'm not wearing any pants, I'm going to find the pants that are laying on the floor or on top of, like, I'm not even going to go into my closet and like pull something off of a hanger or open a drawer. It's going to be what's laying on the hamper or whatever. So I would assume that if it was somebody like Patsy, quote unquote, who's an ex beauty queen or whatever, and very poised and concerned about her looks, and she planned this or did this, then she's going to want to be dressed to the nines or looking good or whatever for what's about to happen because everybody's going to be coming over. She's going to be more concerned about what she looks like than wearing what she wore the night before. So I don't know. So there's that. Just my thought on that. And then the very specific ransom amount, if they're rummaging through the office, John's office, for paper and pen, they might have ran across his bonus letter and saw the amount that he was bonus and just added that in because the letter seemed very juvenile anyway, with all of the references to movies and how long it was and rambling like I am and just how it just, was what it was. So I wouldn't be surprised if they may have seen something that had that amount on there and was like, oh, he was just given this amount, so let's just put this amount in there. So I don't know.
And it supposedly was on a document that was lying on a table. So it wouldn't be surprising at all if somebody saw it. Look, on the what was she wearing, was it significant or not significant? And people go back and forth on that. To me, whatever you think of it, and we talked about Steve Thomas a lot. And the reason we mentioned him so much is I feel like he is the voice of the police. Well, and fairly or not, and I'm sure there are plenty of police officers in Boulder who would say he's not the voice of the police. But he's sort of the voice of the police. And to me, the fact that in his book, he just thinks that's so significant. It's one of his big pieces of evidence that she wore the same clothes. That tells me something. If that's a big piece of evidence for you, that in of itself says we got a problem, because I don't know how you can build much of a case on that kind of fact. So whatever you think of it.
Well, and most people, if they commit a crime in an outfit, they get rid of it.
I think you're totally right there.
I mean, even this is baby brain. I think once you have a baby, you always have baby brain.
Thanks for saying that. No, Ruth, I think you're totally right about that, because one of the things that police look for in trash pull, a trash pull is where you go and take someone's trash that's on the curb and look through it, is they're looking for discarded clothing, because people throw away the clothes that they're wearing to not be recognized, and also because of DNA, fibers, what have you, because we're more sophisticated today because we watch TV and we listen to podcasts, and the layperson knows the investigative tactics of police, and they know that if you wear the same shirt, you're probably leaving behind something, or that thing is on you that can link you to the crime. I think you're absolutely right there, Ruth.
Well, even what's her name that gave her mom 40 whacks or whatever, she even burned her dress.
That's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah. And so it's like, she was painting, but even then that was a dress that she continually wore. That wasn't even a time of affluence, even though they were an affluent family and she thrived on affluence. So like, I don't know, that was another thing that I was like, I'm not going to flaunt the outfit that I was wearing. Even if I went to Walmart and stole a purse, I'm not going to wear the same outfit at least for a week. Cause I'm like,
Right. I mean, that's how you find people, right? I mean, the clothes, the same clothes is I mean, if you commit a crime, you should get rid of the clothes. Not to give
they
anybody
do
any advice,
say
but
if you ever see somebody rob a bank or if you ever see a crime committed, pay attention to the shoes because people will change clothes but not their shoes.
that's a good
So
point. Yeah.
that was
Right about that.
as a bank teller. They said pay attention to shoes because they'll change their clothes.
That's a good point. And that
That's
is
right.
something.
That's right.
Well, Ruth, thank you so much, and thank you for letting us see the
guys.
dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Tell
dog.
dog we said hello. Hello, dog.
Hey, dog.
Dog, like, why is everybody talking about me?
Hannah, you've been so patient. Hey, Hannah.
Hello, Hannah. How are you?
Oh, you're mute. You're mute. There you go.
It actually
Hi.
was perfect because it literally took me that long to figure out why my camera wasn't working.
Oh, good. We're so glad to see you.
I love you guys so much.
We
The
love
first thing I want to do is thank you for San Francisco dog mauling. I suggested that and then I I've listened to it like multiple times since, and every time I hear in the beginning, they're like, get back to us, let us know if we did a good job. And I'm like, oh, I need to do that. Obviously you did a great job. And I don't know why that case doesn't get covered all the time because
Yeah.
of the like stuff that got defined legally and because it's insane.
Right.
Like,
no, there was a lot of interesting stuff in that case.
sorry if it was disturbing. You guys didn't touch too much on the like dog sex. There's like a lot there, but I totally will blame you.
We kind of left that for people's imagination.
Totally
We're
understand.
trying not to sensationalize the case more than it already was, but what an
No,
awesome suggestion of a case.
Yeah.
The details are, I don't know if you guys know the podcast True Anon,
No.
but if anyone wants to know like how freaky the Nazis were, the neo-Nazis in that story, they cover some of the grosser stuff.
Great.
I mean, for like other people, not for you. I totally understand. You guys probably see enough gross stuff in real life.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was a really interesting case, so thank you for suggesting it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I think everyone in San Francisco knows it, which I'm not. But outside, like whenever I mention it to anyone outside of San Francisco, they're like, no, what dog mauling? And I like, let me tell you.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you guys would ever consider covering, like, I guess what I wanted to ask about was Ghislaine Maxwell, but I thought about the trial of Chicago 7 too, like anything that was more political like that. I really would love to hear your take on the Ghislaine trial because of A, like really weird shit the lawyers did during the trial, and then B, the whole situation with the jury member afterwards. I would love to hear. I know it's like a really dark case.
I mean, it's an interesting case. I'm not opposed to covering it. It's interesting. The jury thing is similar to what's going on in the Scott Peterson case, where you have somebody may have been dishonest on their jury questionnaire and what effect.
But this person was like straight up, yeah, I lied. Not lied,
that's true.
Very clear what happened.
Right.
Honestly, I don't know how much you guys follow the case, but I would almost more so want to hear what you thought about how the prosecution handled certain things. It was just like very odd.
Yeah,
I didn't follow it that closely.
I mean, send us an email on some of that. I will say this though. I don't think we'll ever cover another case that's more controversial than John Benet Ramsey. So we're not afraid of anything.
I know you're not afraid. I can understand how like daunting it might be. And something I love about you guys, because I like subscribe to a lot of Patreons and even to patrons, a lot of podcasters will be like, oh, if you don't like this, tell us, like, tell us what you want, blah, blah, blah. Like, if you're offended, let us know. We could change it. And it's really refreshing that you guys are like, oh, the theme song's amazing. Oh, our choices are amazing. And sorry if you don't like it. Like, I love it so much.
Thanks, Anna. The reality is
Thank you.
there's just so much to worry about that, like, whatever, you got to live your life.
Yeah. And I like knowing that you guys aren't going to change because I love this podcast. So
I'm just a big believer in the whole "you can't please everybody" saying. So just do what you do. And people ask me when they're starting podcasts, like, "What's your advice?" My advice is always just be yourself, do your thing. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. Just do your thing. You'll find your people, and that's where you need to be. And so that's sort of our position on it. And we want everybody to listen to the show. It's not like we don't want people to listen to the show, but
It's like
the show is the show. Yeah.
I feel like the people who request changes aren't the people who are going to listen anyway. So,
Right.
and you guys know that, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, we get emails from people that literally say things like, if you don't do this, I'm going to stop listening. It's like, well, see you later, buddy. Enjoy life, because clearly it's not going to work out between us.
Like, you guys are lawyers about everything on the podcast. That's really funny. People really get mad about the theme song. Is that true?
Oh, like more so than
the
only thing. Yeah, the only thing that's edged out complaints about the theme song has been John Benet Ramsey.
Yeah, John Benet Ramsey in general. But
that just blows my mind. Like,
now, look, there are tons of people who love the theme song, but we get it's too long, it's too loud. People who sleep to the podcast, which I don't want to offend anybody who sleeps to the podcast, but we'll get people who say, I sleep to your podcast, and then the theme song comes on, it wakes me up. I really just I wish you would change the theme song.
I'm sorry. Look,
that's a very strange complaint.
Their podcast made just for that anyway, but I just don't. I mean, you could fast forward like 15 seconds if it's that upsetting. People are weird.
Hannah, preach. Yes, preach it.
Yes.
I feel like it's really weird. And then the other case, the reason I wanted to ask you guys about the trial of Chicago 7, 5, 7, 6, 12, however you want to, is not like because of most of the controversy surrounding it, but I was like just so blown away about hearing what the judge was able to say and like how combative and inflammatory he was with the lawyers. And I've heard that it's like, if you read the whole transcripts, it's even more ridiculous than it gets depicted in film. But I like truly don't understand like how that was allowed and what is allowed and like what rights and liberties, I guess, the judge has to just completely.
Well, that's a whole kettle of fish. I mean, the judges can do a lot. They can do a lot. I mean, they can ask questions, they can make comments, they can get into fights with lawyers. If they're going to get into fights with lawyers, it's much better if it's done outside the presence of the jury. Like, you may remember, I forget which case it was now. It might have been Kyle Rittenhouse.
Oh, Rittenhouse. When they
the judge is always fighting with well, all the times he was doing that was outside the presence of the jury, right? So it's one thing if you're going to yell at the lawyers and call them idiots and all this other stuff when the jury's not there. If you do that in front of the jury, that's a problem, because then obviously the jury's the jury looks to the judge for guidance, right? And one of the jury instructions is you shouldn't take anything I've said or done to mean that I have any opinion on this case or that I favor one side or the other. I mean, that's one of the things he tells them. But if the whole time he's been beating up on a lawyer and calling them morons, the jury's not stupid, right? So it's a pretty complicated question.
Which way would that sway them then? Away from the prosecution? Probably.
Well, it depends on what the judge is doing. I mean, who he's yelling at, right? I mean,
so what rules got like what is the code that says what a judge can and can't do then?
If only there were a code.
I mean, there are canons of judicial ethics, but
yeah, there's judicial temperament that's supposed to govern it. And also there's a record. Everything that happens in court, even when it's outside the presence of the jury, is transcribed by a court reporter for the record on appeal. And so that's why we, as people watching a trial, know what's going on outside the presence of the jury, but you don't always know what's a sidebar. So there's two ways to have conversations the jury doesn't hear. Outside the presence of the jury, where quite literally the court says, jury, get up, you leave the room, and the court is left with just the attorneys and anyone can watch. And the judge, that's one way, that's outside the presence. But also during trial, you can do something called a sidebar. You probably heard sidebar. A sidebar is quite literally that. You walk up to the judge's bench and he turns on like a sound machine and you whisper, and the court reporter is still typing. She or he brings the little like transcribing machine, which I think is magic, right next to the judge, and everyone huddles like this and whisper back and forth what's happening. But that's outside the presence of the jury, just to give you guys a little bigger view of what's actually happening in the courtroom. And the jury's not supposed to be able to hear that. You try to deal with smaller issues in that way. Let's say an attorney keeps objecting. Objection. The judge may say, let's take a quick sidebar and admonish that attorney and be like, your objections are baseless. Stop just kind of messing up my courtroom. If you don't stop, something bigger is going to happen. And then you step back. So that's kind of the example of when you would do a sidebar. But the jury is not hearing that judge admonish the attorney. So does that make sense? So we, as like the audience, see a lot more than what the jury is supposed to. And the reason the jury's not supposed to hear that has nothing to do with the evidence in the case. It has to do with how the lawyer is presenting a case, which is not substantive evidence.
And I think what you would do if it was really bad, I mean, just sort of walking through, if it was really bad, like if a judge was doing really bad things, I think at some point you would move for mistrial. And the judge is probably going to deny that because obviously the judge is whatever. But then when you appeal, you can sort of point to all that as a reason for your appeal. But I mean, I will say this, I don't think that's as common as some people think it is. I think most judges try very hard to not appear to have any bias one way or the other for either side, even if they do. So
I mean, I didn't think it was common. That's like why it blew my mind so much to see how far out of line he went in that case, which is like why I was curious about it. Cause I've done jury duty, and the judges in my city, I find like really pretty impartial, and
it's like everything else. I think it's better than it used to be. I think that some of that stuff was more common in the past, but
yeah.
maybe
Can I just one question I want to ask you guys related to that, and then I'm done. And if you can't think of anything, that's fine. But what's the most unprofessional behavior you have encountered in the court, or just like if you have an instance offhand from like either other lawyers or judge or people who are end up being professionals in the courtroom? I would like to know.
There's so many.
Yeah, I don't know if we can answer that question. Just more and more people listen to this podcast, and so we can't share as many things as we used to.
This is get Vokl Patreon is behind the wall.
That's right. It's behind the. I'll have to think about that, Hannah. If you write us that question, we'll definitely.
Yeah, there you go.
After we've thought about it, but I would say that the things that people will say, like you think critics of the podcast are mean. That's one thing to like write it anonymously and send an email or send a 1-star review. But when you hear kind of those same words coming out of like a professional's mouth on the record to you, you're like, did he just call me honey? What? Did that just happen? And it happens, and everyone just keeps smiling, and you just keep going.
I will say this. I mean, I am constantly amazed at the things people say and do to Alice. Like I can't. There are times where I'm just like, it is 2022. I can't believe, and I don't know. It just blows my mind. It just from sort of like acting like she just doesn't exist. Like she's just not even in the room. Like that happens a lot. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. There's still a lot.
This is why I'll say one quick thing. I'll say one quick thing because Brett's just like the best friend anyone could have. I think you guys all know this, and you should all try to befriend him and become his best friend. Because when stuff like that happens in the courtroom, Brett, he's like, I don't know, you're like a foot taller than me. I am, smaller in size to you. He'll quite literally turn around and be like, she's my boss. And it's so embarrassing in court, but he does that, and it's so awesome.
That's so badass.
Yeah.
So anyway, Brett's like the greatest friend in the world. You guys should know that.
Well, thank you so much.
It's easy.
Yeah,
Thank you, Hannah.
It's been very heartwarming.
Hannah.
Yeah, send us all your suggestions. You're awesome at it.
I won't be emailing you guys, no doubt. Okay,
Awesome.
I just click this X.
There you go. Bye. Mark, what's up?
Hey, everybody. Thanks for the podcast. I just wanted to check in. I started listening to your pod right when the pandemic started because it started, but
When we started,
but I'm in law school part-time, and this past semester I have an externship with prosecutor's office. So it's pretty cool.
Nice.
To go in and work on some cases. So yeah, it just gives like another.
Are you at the law review office? Is that what TLR stands for or something?
Yeah. It's
There you go.
Law review. Yeah. Sorry,
There you go. Oh, it's an I. Okay.
Later. Yeah.
Man,
But-
you are dedicated.
You are. You're awesome. Look, in law school, I didn't make time for like eating or seeing my loved ones. So the fact that you're making time for this, you're awesome.
Yeah. And I hated side checking. Oh God. It was awful.
Yeah. All the blue book stuff.
Have
Yeah.
fun.
But
The blue book.
yeah. It's so cool. Like to work on these cases. I mean, if you're like kind of have a true crime fan in general, and they're like, and your supervisor says, hey, read this FBI interrogation.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. Yeah. So I've been able to work on some really cool cases. And so, I feel partially, inspired by you guys' work. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Well, that's awesome.
Sorry, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Seriously. You don't look like someone who's like site checking. You look so happy, and so
Yeah,
you're
I
doing
know.
something right.
Healthy and everything. How much more time do you have in law school?
I just have one more year after this.
Okay.
So
One more to go. Well,
Yeah.
Well,
that last year's
email us,
pretty easy.
let us know if we can help in anything because
Absolutely.
we were there not too long ago. It sounds like you have everything figured out, so you probably don't need our help. But if you're on the path, we're here.
Yeah,
I'll
definitely.
keep you guys in mind for my moral character application for the bar.
There you go.
So
There you
be
go.
references
We're-
for that.
We are happy
Complete
to
love, murder.
but in a good way.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Right.
Mark.
You.
Hi, user.
Hey, sorry, I just made this account, so I didn't have time to hit
Awesome.
my. But yeah, I love your guys' podcast. I'm a nursing student, and I was wondering if you guys had been looking at the Radon Navat case at all.
So we're going to do something on that. We've had a lot of
cool.
people who've asked us about it. We had another podcast that's reached out to us about coming on their show about it. I will tell you, I have not looked at it yet. So I don't know. I know the very general story, but not really in a position to give you much at this point. But if you have any general questions about it, we're happy to answer or try to answer.
Yeah, I've been following it a little bit, in school and then a lot just on my own. But yeah, I personally think it's just crazy. I think, to my understanding, it's the first time that a nurse has been criminally charged for a medication error. So yeah, I think it'd be awesome if you guys covered it. I'd be really interested to see what you guys think from the law side, because I certainly have an opinion from the nursing side. But yeah,
And I'm
sure
interested to
taking
look
the
at the
nursing
law
community.
as well.
yeah, it's definitely made waves in the nursing community. I know a lot. There were already like hundreds of thousands of nurses leaving the profession, with COVID and everything. And I think so many more have left, unfortunately, since the verdict from this trial came out. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
No, and feel free to reach out, especially as we start doing our research into this case, because I have not looked more than headlines in this case. I don't really know much about the case other than what's been reported. And as we all know, sometimes it helps to go look beyond just what's reported. But absolutely, when we are faced with prosecutions in the medical field, number one question is, what kind of a chilling effect will this have? And so I'm sure this is making waves in the medical community in a negative sense, in terms of maybe driving people away who don't know more than what's in the headlines. And again, I don't know what's behind those headlines, but it certainly would scare me, if I were in that profession. So we really look forward to looking into that, because I think it has massive implications for how we prosecute, how we decide to prosecute, and also kind of, the field that you're in as well.
And I'll just say, I'm really interested to look at it too. So, but I'll say a couple things, which may end up being completely wrong by the time we actually look at the laws and everything else. But the first thing I'll say, which I don't think is going to be wrong under any circumstances, is I think sometimes the most difficult cases to decide whether to prosecute and to sort of handle are negligent homicide cases where someone dies and it was pretty clearly an accident, and deciding when does an accident become something for which someone needs to be held responsible. And there's been, a couple cases recently, not in the nursing field, that kind of reminded me of this. Like I said, not knowing a whole lot about it yet. Some of you guys will remember this case about the truck driver. There's a truck driver, I think he was in Colorado, and his brakes went out and he crashed and he killed like 7 people, right? And he got a lot of time for it, because in Colorado, for every person who dies in involuntary manslaughter type situation, you have to get a certain amount of time. And since so many people died, he got like a ton of time. And a lot of people were like, how can this be true? It was an accident. But the problem was, he knew that it was an area where you had to be careful about your brakes. And the last time he had stopped, his brakes were literally red hot because he'd been using them so much. And there were off ramps he could have turned onto that he didn't turn onto. So he ends up, his brakes go out, he loses control of the truck. Total accident, but a bunch of people died. Should he be tried or not? Right. And it's a very sort of difficult question about what is an accident becomes criminal. And I feel like we're going to see the same thing here. I don't know enough about the facts yet to know, but I have a feeling what we're going to see is probably something that happened where there were some standards that weren't adhered to, maybe, and how much of that matters. And like I said, this is me kind of talking from ignorance here, but that's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I think that pretty much any nurse that you ask would agree that she should
have lost her nursing license. And there's so much to this case. I mean, I'm sure if you guys do it, you'll get into the whole thing. But she actually had been investigated by the Board of Nursing, and they let her continue to practice for a year until, more tips came in and Medicare threatened to stop funding the hospital if they didn't do something about it because they had covered it up. And then that's when they ended up going after her criminally and pulling her license. But there's so much to it. So I'll be excited to hear you guys cover it. So thank you. I love your podcast so much. I feel like I'm talking to celebrities right now. So I'm like kind of nervous. But thank you.
Thank you for listening. Thank you so much. And thanks for what you do. You're
you.
right. I know that nurses are leaving in droves and we need you guys. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
And, we don't normally say what case we're going to cover. We're going to cover that case. And so if anyone here, including you, is a nurse and you have thoughts, feel free to email them to us now. So that's something that we can think about as we're looking at sort of the facts or whatever. Well, it would be very interesting to have. So you guys know our email address, prosecutorspod@gmail.com. So
thank you so much. I'll let somebody else snag this. You guys have a good night. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, Josh. How are you?
Good to see your face.
So excited to be talking to you guys.
Okay, thank you so much for being such an awesome commenter on sides. I'm glad to get to see you now.
Yeah.
So first I'm going to show you my dogs because
Awesome.
Beautiful coloring.
Oh,
and I was also actually going to ask about that case. And so I'm really glad to hear you guys are going to cover it. I'm a physician and it has affected nursing morale and also physician morale. And it is very emotional. And so I've had a hard time not feeling overly emotional about it, particularly within the context of the pandemic where a lot of us are really tired. We've been working hard for a while, and there have been a lot of times where we have to have conversations with people about science that they are not open to. And so a lot of times my experience, and I think others as well, has been a lot of invalidation from a lot of different sources, just that, from patients, from administrators, from the media. And so then to kind of have something that on its face says, oh, and if you make a mistake, you could go to jail now, in addition to like losing the license it took you so long to get, and like all the, the bad thing come along with making a mistake like that. So I guess I'm glad you guys will be covering it. And my main question was the Christopher Punch case, where I thought a big able to be prosecuted for, maiming so many people was that it was pretty clearly malice, and that his defense had been that he was just a bad doctor. So I know it's a different jurisdiction, so I just am really curious about that.
And I will say it will vary from state to state. And we're looking at a case right now out of a state that has surprising laws. I was surprised by their homicide laws. This state does not seem to have just a pure negligent, involuntary manslaughter type charge. It requires a higher level of culpable negligence, they call it. And to be culpable, it's like you have to be reckless and have a reckless disregard for human life, which is much higher than what you normally see. So it really does. It just varies from state to state. And I think that is probably another issue for nurses who are hearing about this case. What they do in Tennessee, they may not do in Kentucky. It may be completely different in California. And we're going to cover it, and we'll do the best we can to shine some light on it. But it is a difficult situation, and I don't.
Sorry to belabor that a little bit, but I'm excited you guys are going to cover it. And thanks.
No, thanks, Tosh.
Thank
and
you.
Thanks for bringing those questions up, because I think we were already going to cover it, but you've given us a really good perspective of like how it affects, boots on the ground and the real effects it has on an entire profession here. So thanks for that perspective as we head into it.
Well, have a good
Hello,
night.
Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Have a great night too.
Hi, Megan.
Hi, Brett. Hi, Alice. I'm here
Hello.
from Australia. So
Yes.
I love hearing your perspectives of things. Our legal system is similar but different. Things like grand juries and things like that, we don't have them here. So it's always really interesting to hear how those sorts of things work. My
Right.
question was about Mary Morris,
Okay.
particularly Mary McGuinness Morris. I'm really intrigued by the gun under the front seat. And I'm really interested. I haven't been able to find who verified the information that the gun was under the seat. And I guess I wondered, did she even know if the gun was under the front seat? Because I think when I listened to the coverage, what really struck me, Alice, was your comment about the whole idea that someone's threatening you at work and your husband says, hey, here, no worries, take a gun. Good
Here's
luck
good.
with that. And it really bothered me because I thought that's just really, really interesting. And I guess I've always just wondered if even she knew it was there and whether that information has come from third parties. Have you found any evidence to suggest that she had told colleagues or family that she was carrying that?
I think it comes from the husband.
Yeah.
That's where I think that's my recollection is it comes from the husband. So the answer is who knows, right?
You don't
Because
know.
he obviously is a suspect.
Mhm.
He's somebody, suspect might be strong, but he's certainly a person of interest. He's somebody who had a reason to possibly do something. So you have to believe him. So do you or not?
Yeah.
But that's I think you're totally right about that. When I said that in podcast, I was like, hello, anybody else? Like, here's sweetheart, here's a gun.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Can you imagine?
The ones. I would be like, if you're gonna give me a gun because it's that serious, how about we go report this together? Or
Right. Go to the police or something.
It's
Call the
really
boss. I mean,
Yeah, and like in
that case,
Australia,
it's a total
we have
mess.
totally. And like in Australia, we have very tight gun laws, so not a lot of people carry guns. But even then, I'm like, that still seems very, very interesting. But thank you so much for your coverage on that one. That was amazing because I think that the fact those cases have just been lumped together for so long and separating them out like that was phenomenal and really great investigative work. So if there's ever any breakthrough on it, I think you guys can take a bit of credit for that.
Well, thank you, Megan.
Megan.
And just
Thank
so
you
you
so
know,
much
we're
for
going to be
listening.
doing an Australian case here in a couple of weeks.
Oh, fantastic. I look forward to it.
Yeah. So, yeah. Can't wait. It's an interesting
Awesome.
good one.
All right.
All
Enjoy
right.
your day. Thanks.
Thank you, Megan.
So I just want to say we're coming towards the close. So if anybody has a question, you need to jump in now.
Jump on in.
Yeah. And Alicia. It seems like Alicia always.
Hi, Sharon.
Hello, Sharon. How are you?
All right. I can't believe I got out. Yay. Thank you for coming on. Yes. Okay. First, I love y'all. Y'all are my favorite. And I always post y'all to everybody. My brother is like, he hears every podcast. Second of all, are you ever going to do Holly Bobo?
Holly Bobo. She's on the list. So conceivably, yes, we will eventually.
Well,
We're very slow, as you know.
yeah, it happened with about an hour from where I live. So I know people that know the family, and I always was suspicious of the brother. They just never made sense to me. And this friend of mine knows the brother, and she's like, if you knew him, she said you would never even suspect he had anything to do with it. And I was like, well, so you get, I know people that know the family, so you kind of get a different perspective than what you get from the media. And the trial just never really made a lot of sense to me either. So I would like to hear y'all's perspective on it.
No, I would like to do it. And obviously the brother in the story always seemed a little strange, right? I mean, I think the story just seems, it's a strange story. So it's definitely what we're going to do eventually. Hopefully we'll do it justice.
And then I had one question about John Bonet. I hate to keep bringing John Bonet up. But
No, you.
have you ever thought that maybe, I do believe, I agree with y'all. I think it was an intruder. I think if it was family, it would have been solved a long time ago. So have you ever thought that maybe they were already in the house when they come home from the party?
I think they were.
Yeah, I think that they were. I don't think this is a random attack. I think this person was a stalker of the family. I don't know whether it's an individual, just of John Bonet, but I think that person had spent a lot of time in that house and kind of got a lot of joy out of sitting on their couches, running their hands, on their clothes, maybe opening their drawers and smelling them. I mean, I don't think that person, you look at the layout of that house, someone had to have been familiar with that house, I think. And to then have the heightened adrenaline of carrying out something that they've probably been planning for a while, you are in a heightened state. You're nervous. You knock things over, right? But they carried it all out without being detected. And I think because they knew exactly what they were going to do. So yes, and I do think they were in the house beforehand.
And I don't want to freak anybody out, but I mean, those of you who have a basement or whatever, how do you know there's not somebody in there right now?
Come on, man. You know how I feel about this.
I haven't been in my basement today. There could be somebody hanging out down there. You see these videos.
And you have a
like
creepy
living in the
basement.
closets or whatever.
You maybe look, tornado warning. Yeah.
Well, we actually did go down there today to in case we have to go down there. So, but that was the only time.
I had a creepy basement one time, and I told him, I said, you can forget it. Tornado just not going down there.
I know. I kind of feel the same way. Yeah. But
Well, it was nice talking to you. I won't take any more of your time, but I do love you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
You're
you
awesome.
so much. Thank you. Hey, Alicia.
All right, Alicia, take us home tonight. What's
Take
up?
us home. Oh, I'm so glad
Andre's coming back.
Come on, Andres. Close out the night with us.
Alicia, you keep muting yourself.
I'm trying to finish my closing paperwork at Outback, and then I'll be out of here in like 3 minutes.
Are you at work? You are so committed.
So committed. But she's the manager at the Outback now.
Yeah.
Thursday when I go to the
That's
bar.
awesome. That's awesome.
I mean, I still have bar shifts sometimes. So,
Well, if I come, I expect you to be there.
of course, always.
Andre, if you wanted to ask one short question, of course you can. You started us, you can finish us too.
Yeah. Well, Alicia
I
finished
do
with
want
her
to take the
paperwork.
spot in case anyone else wanted to speak, someone who hasn't taken the spot yet. But okay, here's one short question. You remember this movie, A Few Good Men? Tom
Oh,
Cruise?
yeah. Absolutely. I strenuously
Fantastic.
object.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I've always had this question because here in Chile, you can't harass a witness. Like if you start speaking too loud or being too aggressive to a witness, you will be stopped. Like hey, you can't talk to the witness like that. Either by the judge or the other attorney will object and say, Your Honor, the lawyer can't treat my witness like that. So I really want to know, because you see a lot of this on movies, like the lawyers kind of harassing witnesses. Can you really do that? Is that allowed? Can you?
So technically,
You remember Tom Cruise shouting at Jack Nicholson?
Did you order the code red?
You
Order the code red.
and order the code red. I think that's
so the technical answer is you can object. We have the same objection here in the United States that you cannot harass a witness, but you can ask questions until they answer. And oftentimes, that's why did you order, because he hadn't answered the question. And so you can object all you want, but the judge can order you to answer the question. So if it's an unobjectionable question, obviously in the movies, it's like hyped up and you're standing and, you're doing things like this. And one of the tactics of being a lawyer is to know where that line is and who your judge is and ask those questions in a way that the judge likes you to keep asking the next question. Right. but yes, they can ask any question they want, really, as long as it's not.
You can ask any question here too, but if you speak in a way that's regarded as disrespectful to the witness, someone will stop you like right away. Like you have to
Wow.
witness is very respectful. So-
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably a sort of a cultural thing. Certainly, defense attorneys get pretty aggressive with witnesses, and as prosecutors, you just have to decide, because there's a fine line between sort of trying to defend your witness and if you object, some jurors might think you're trying to hide something, right? Like, oh, he's really going after him. You're trying to protect him. If he answers the question, your whole case is going to fall apart. So it's kind of a fine line. You just have to. Well, in our trial, I had a witness where the defense attorney was really going after him, and I was like, and it worked out, obviously, but it's a tough call about when you object and when you don't. But you can be pretty aggressive with up to a limit.
Okay. Thank you, guys. I'm going to leave the spot for someone else who wants to.
Fantastic question, Andres, as always. I think you have a fan club on the side, by the way.
Yeah, you're the.
Okay, Alicia, you're going to ask him. You get to ask the last question for the night.
Okay, yay. I've been saving this question.
Yeah. Literally walking to your car right now. Is that what's going on?
Well, no, I'm not going to go out in the rain. I'm just going out on the porch. Have you guys ever had any interaction with Alexander Shannara?
Alexander Shannara.
Okay, well, let's explain who Alexander Shannara is to everyone listening. So maybe, Alicia, you might know better, but I think Alexander Shannara he's an attorney, and I think he bought up all of the vacant billboards in like the Southeast America. This is quite literally true in multiple states. And it's just his name and a picture of his face, but it's like,
and it says, call me Alabama.
Call me Alabama, except there's no commas, and technically he wants you to call him Alabama.
Yeah. And he's in multiple states. So in other states, it'll be like, call me Florida or whatever,
Right. I don't know
his ads,
real
like,
person.
call me. He's a real person. Yeah.
I mean, like a real person now, because he has so many billboards. But it's hilarious, because if you guys ever drive in Southeast United States, you will see these billboards, and they're pretty funny.
But the answer is no. We have never come across him in any of our cases. We had maybe a brief interaction with the hammer, but But, unfortunately. But if I was ever in a car accident, I'd tell you who I'd call.
I mean, I will say, I will end with this thing. It's not exactly about Alexander Shannara, but I like to remind Brett of this all the time. You may know that Brett went to Harvard, and one of the best billboards I ever saw was not a billboard. It was an ad on the back of a park bench, and because they couldn't afford even a billboard, and it was a park bench, a real one, and it had the name of the lawyer and a name, and it was just like, Bill Smith, call 99999, Harvard law grad. And I was like, Brett, I'm going to take out an ad for you on a park bench that says that.
Yeah. We don't accept Bill as a graduate anymore. So, well, guys, this has been awesome. I'm so glad we got to do this. I promise you it will not be however many months it's been before we do another one of these. Basically, right after we got a trial, we scheduled this, and then I couldn't do it last week, so we had to do it this week. We're going to do these more often. Obviously, you'll keep getting your ad-free episodes, but these are really the highlight of our time, and we love this. We love doing these with y'all. So, promise we will be back much sooner than this time. I guess, what are we doing next week? We got a new case next week. Oh, we got really interesting. Well, I was talking about it. The case you guys are going to get tomorrow, as a matter of fact. It's an interesting one. I'm really interested to hear what you guys think about it.
I can't hear you say. Oh no.
I feel like
the rain's too loud. So I'm glad I made it and got to see you guys. So
glad you made it too. Be careful on the way home.
I will for sure.
Okay. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Okay, guys.
Don't come to TribeCon. We love you. Thank you so much for being with us. Go sleep or get your day started wherever you are in the world.
Yes, shoot us emails with all your any questions that you didn't get answered or any cases you want us to cover. We'll definitely try and cover them. But until we see you guys next time, I'm Brett.
And I'm Alice.
And we are the prosecutors.
What was the food that we liked? I don't know. HelloFresh recipe.
I do love HelloFresh.
I still make that pasta dish. The squash, zucchini.
Yeah, man.
It's just so easy.
HelloFresh is amazing. I love it very much. This is the bang bang meatballs. Is that one of them?
Firecracker meatballs. Is it?
Firecracker meatballs. That's what it was.
Talk about the kickin' cayenne chicken.
I'll talk about firecracker meatballs. You can talk about kicking cayenne chicken.
Okay. A lot I didn't understand about the thing. Now I'm gonna watch the thing.
You should watch the thing.
Netflix thing. Okay, Amarillo, Texas. Yellow, Texas.
Yellow, Texas.
Amarillo.
Amarillo by morning. I'm from San Antonio. Everything that I got is all that I got on.
Find yourself looking for a new job or change in career? Monster.com is here to help. We are not only here to bring you job postings, but also AI interview prep and salary tools, expert career advice, and top-notch resume services. We've got everything you need to land your perfect job fit. Discover the magic of finding the ideal job with Monster.com. Your future starts now. Visit Monster.com today. Your next job opportunity is just a click away.
Introducing The Next Day, the New York Times best-selling book by Melinda French Gates. The Next Day offers a rare window into Melinda's life, including some of her most pivotal moments. This insightful, inspiring book is the perfect gift for graduates and offers guidance for stepping into life's next chapter. You can find The Next Day wherever books are sold.